Words are incredible things. Through words, we understand our world. They allow us to identify and articulate our experience and everything around us, like Englishman, smile, nice people, Zurich. Words even have the power to bring things into being, where to fashion a term like justice or democracy is to help create the very phenomenon of which one speaks. And somehow it's very reassuring that although people speak many different languages the world over, we share so many concepts in common, each tongue with its own version of the same idea. So it is that I can speak of love, for instance, and everyone can understand my meaning, whether you call it Liebe, Amor, or any of the other myriad ways we call it into being. But here's the strange thing. Some ideas are not shared in common. Languages can sometimes possess terms for which we lack an exact equivalent in our own tongue. Such words we might call untranslatable. German, for instance, is full of these intrigues, from Wanderlust, a starry-eyed longing for travel and adventure, to Schadenfreude, a malicious joy at an adversary's misfortune. And here I must right away apologize for my pronunciation, which I'm sure will leave some people wincing. These kind of words are strange and very significant. If words label and even create our world, what does it mean to lack a particular word in our own language? Are we not then missing out on some vital part of existence, veiled to us out of sight? This possibility has fascinated me for years, and it's why since 2015 I've been creating a collection of these kind of words, focusing specifically on well-being. It's this project which I'd like to share with you today. So when I was 19, I packed a few good books and my favourite cassette tapes, this being the olden days, and nervously set off for China to teach English for 6 months before starting university. Now, I know other people have taken more daunting trips and at younger ages, but for me this was a big deal. My friends thought of me as this ditzy dreamer who struggled to navigate public transport in London. And to be fair, there was some truth in that. So catapulting myself halfway around the world felt like a radical challenge, this bold leap into the unknown. And so it proved. The trip exploded my horizons, physically, emotionally, mentally. At every turn, I encountered new sights and sounds, people and places. Most relevantly here, I stumbled across new ideas. With a budding spirit of wanderlust, I travelled all around that great land. I was particularly drawn to its monasteries, Taoist and Buddhist, and spent long hours absorbed in their mysteries. And key among these were ideas I'd not before encountered. Words like Tao and Nirvana bewitched my mind, intriguing me no end. I had no idea what they meant, and they're still opaque to me now, if I'm honest. At best, I might hazard the suggestion that Tao describes the entire warp and weft of reality, both being and becoming, form and function. But as Taoist texts make clear, by its very nature, it's utterly ineffable. So too, the Sanskrit term nirvana, which in Buddhist teachings describes a form of ultimate well-being which words can barely begin to describe, a total and lasting cessation of suffering. I knew these ideas were important, even back then. I also realized the significance of us lacking equivalent terms in English. However comprehensive our grasp of life might be, without such concepts, it's surely incomplete. So this feeling stayed with me as I returned home to study psychology, and some years after that to teach it as a lecturer. Despite being an international endeavour, the field of psychology is mostly conducted in English. So its understanding of the mind is therefore shaped and moreover limited by the contours of that language. And as a result, it risks overlooking ideas and insights developed in other cultures, like Tao and Nirvana. So these ideas were bubbling away in my mind when, a few years ago, I joined colleagues at an international conference on positive psychology, which, by the way, is not about positive thinking, despite what you may have gathered from some depictions, perhaps illustrated by a yellow smiley emoticon. Really, it's simply the scientific study of well-being in all its aspects, of how humans can best flourish and live life to the full. So there I was, wandering aimlessly around, as I do, and I chanced across this intriguing talk by a Finnish researcher, Emilia Lahti, on the concept of sisu. Now, she described this as a form of extraordinary courage and determination, especially in the face of adversity that's central to Finnish culture and identity. However, although the Finns had the foresight to identify and conceptualize this quality, she held out the hope that it's a universal potential, common to humanity. So returning home to England, I was chatting about the conference with my mum. The notion to go to China had actually been my mum's inspiration, I think partly because she wanted an excuse to visit the country. So I was telling her about sisu and the perplexing fact that we lack an English equivalent. And our conversation soon turned to other untranslatable words we'd heard of in French and in German, in Arabic and Chinese. Then as we spoke, this idea began to crystallize. What if I were to start a collection of these kind of words with a focus on well-being, given my affiliation to positive psychology? Wouldn't the field be enhanced, its understanding of the mind enriched? So I had this vision of a crowdsourced collective endeavor with people around the world contributing words from their languages. So the trouble was I didn't have a website at that point or a way of attracting attention to the project. I needed to spark it off myself, so I conducted an initial search for words, delving into the many websites you can find on the topic as well as less colourful academic sources. This yielded like a modest haul of a couple of hundred words. So I analysed these thematically and in 2016 published the results in the Journal of Positive Psychology. So excitingly, but also a little dauntingly, the article quickly generated some interest. But as I'd hoped, people began getting in touch, recommending words from their languages. Meanwhile, I also continued my own explorations. I'd often find a new word and then fall headlong into a rabbit hole as it drew my attention to a host of related concepts in that language. So in this way, the lexicon began to blossom to the point where it now has nearly 1,000 items. But mind you, as promising as that sounds, this is really only a fraction of the potential words out there. After all, only around 100 languages are currently represented on the list, out of some 7,000 in existence. Not only is the project a work in progress, but it's only just beginning. So by now, you might be wondering what are some of the words I found, besides Wanderlust, which is in the list because it's beautiful, and Schadenfreude, which isn't, because it's kind of mean and nasty, right? In fact, I'm often asked which are my favourite words, and it's kind of a hard question to answer because so many words resonate with me and do so in markedly different ways. But across the kaleidoscopic variety I've collected so far, the words tend to fall into two main categories. I call these old friends and mysterious strangers. So old friends, they're like a childhood buddy who you've not seen since you were kids, but you bump into them years later and you immediately recognize them. So in this way, some words strike an immediate chord of recognition, like I know the phenomenon they refer to in some form, even if I don't fully get all of the word's meanings. I mean, after all, only people from the culture that created that word can probably fully appreciate all of its layers and textures and the values and traditions associated with it. So too, I won't know the precise details of what my friend has been up to in the intervening years. But, I can still recognize him, and I'm glad to see him. And in this way, these kind of old friend words, they do call out to me in the spirit of welcoming familiarity. So, wonderful memories of Italy, for instance, come flooding to mind when I hear the term passeggiata, for that lovely act of strolling at leisure, often in the evening and with loved ones, savouring the Mediterranean air. Joie de vivre captures the joy of living that I've long associated with France, land of the gourmand and the connoisseur, the chic and the debonair. The secret to Nordic happiness seems somehow encapsulated in the now ubiquitous hygge, which I'm not certain is how you pronounce it, even if I am confident that it doesn't precisely mean coziness per se, but rather a coveted emotional contentment and security. And it's not only European terms that resonate in this way. The beautiful notion of Ubuntu, for instance, found in Zulu and other African languages, expresses an ethic of compassion and connection, that I am because you are. It therefore articulates a recognition of common humanity, with which I'm hopefully in tune. And then there are the mysterious strangers, words whose meaning I can barely begin to fathom, even after hearing detailed descriptions. Some of the words I encountered in China, to which I've already referred, like Tao and Nirvana, fall into this class. So too ideas like Wu Wei, which in Taoism seemingly describes a paradoxical notion of doing by non-doing, a sort of natural spontaneity in which outcomes are achieved through effortless action. With such ideas, despite years spent seeking their secrets, I'm certain I don't properly understand them. But on my good days, I do feel I'm getting closer, and my life is enriched as a result. It's in that sense I've spent the last 10 years trying imperfectly to follow a Buddhist path. For that's full of words like nirvana, all suffused with this veiled significance, from the ethical causality of karma to the dynamic awareness of sati, which is the basis for the modern term mindfulness. Such ideas, if really understood, have the power to revolutionize one's life. After all, maybe that's what a spiritual path consists of, ultimately, developing this ever deeper experiential understanding of ideas central to that tradition. And I think my own experience of engaging with Buddhism reinforces a more general point, one with universal relevance. And it's this point which, above all, I hope you'll take away with you today. And that is that untranslatable words really have the power to uplift and transform our reality in many positive ways. They can provide a window onto lives in other cultures, revealing something about their experiences and values and traditions. And in this fragmented and divisive age, that kind of empathic understanding is so important. But these words are not only valuable in terms of what they teach us about other people and other places, they can also illuminate our own lives, giving us new language with which to articulate our experiences. They might even lead us into previously unglimpsed dimensions of existence, revealing new possibilities for life and for ourselves. I just encourage you to inquire into this strange realm of untranslatability. Maybe look at the list on my website or the other sites on this topic. Perhaps chat with a friend who speaks another language. Ask them what jewels are in their lexicon. You may be transported to new worlds. At the very least, you'll probably have an interesting conversation. Language is a powerful and mysterious thing, and untranslatable words are among its most profound secrets. A world of discovery awaits. Thank you.